Our first comment this week is from Nismoman420, who said,
So, your diet would fall apart if it wasn't for all the technology that makes your wacky diet possible. If shit hit the fan in this country, you would eventually have to eat meat in a survival setting. Your beliefs back up vegetarianism at best. How is it wrong to have dairy products as long as the animals are free to graze? No torture? No life lost? I love animals, and I've always kind of wondered if it's correct or not to kill for food. Animals kill other animals, like you said, but humans are animals too. So because we can eat differently than nature intended, is that a good thing? And what about fish? Clearly, fish is meat. I've ran into some vegans/vegetarians that claim it is not meat. Clearly a fish is more alive than a plant, kinda like an animal. Because it's in the water, fuck the fish in their life? You people are inconsistent as fuck. Probably a lack of nutrients throwing off proper brain function. Oh yeah, I heard animal fat is crucial for brain function. Also, our current science you rely on is imperfect. They've been finding lately there are enzymes and things in meat that are very beneficial to us. Nobody knows the perfect diet because if they did, they would live to be over 200 years old. Because those scientists you love so much claim the human body has the potential to live approx 220 years with an ideal diet. So really, we're both ignorant. You can stick with your new age hippie bullshit, and I'll stick with what has worked for thousands, maybe millions of years. Enjoy, bub. Wink.
Okay, let's unpack this long comment addressing a number of issues. The technology required to live a vegan life is limited to the farming practices of the last few thousand years and the transportation of the last few hundred. Why is it easier to be a vegan now than ever before? Because we can grow large crops, thereby keep the costs down, and transport a wider range of foods from a wider range of locations than ever before. Vegan foods such as fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, and fungi are available in more places worldwide than ever before in human history. The advancement in farming practices and transportation allows for easier access for a larger population. It's not as if we need science to artificially create vegan foods to replace animal foods. In regards to instances of true emergency and survival, I would do whatever it takes to live. In a truly dire situation, killing and eating other humans has been deemed morally excusable, even though it would not be morally justifiable. We should not base our everyday morality on the chance that one day we may live in a Mad Max world. For the majority of people on Earth today, especially in more affluent countries, there is no state of emergency and widespread famine that requires drastic measures. In regards to vegetarianism and dairy consumption, these animals are kept alive a little longer, hooked up to machines attached to swollen infected udders, restricted and stand for hours on concrete, artificially inseminated by a human, and made pregnant and then have their baby calf taken away nearly at birth. These baby calves are either killed for their flesh, veal, or become the next generation of milk machines. After a few short years, after repeated pregnancies, once the milk production declines, these cows end up being sent to slaughter and become pet food meat or burger meat. While all of this is atrocious behavior, it is entirely unnecessary and misses the bigger issue of use. Regardless how mean or how nicely we treat other animals, do we really have a right to use them? Especially when we have no nutritional need, and it causes them so much physical and psychological suffering, as well as a short life devoid of any experience worth living for. We often pride ourselves for being the most ingenious and intelligent species on the planet, yet when it comes to our food choices we default to an appeal to nature fallacy. We either live or act in a way that exemplifies our intellect, or we regress and allow any animalistic tendency to be deemed acceptable. We can't rationally have it both ways. Yes, we are animals. Yes, some animals do kill other animals to survive. We are animals with more options, physiologically and practically. We are omnivores, but we do not require to eat other animals to be healthy. We can eat other animals, but we don't need to. We also have a wide enough selection of vegan foods to choose from. Other animals tend to kill other animals only when they need to survive, obligate carnivores and obligate omnivores, or when protecting their group from danger. We increasingly rarely have these justifications that would excuse our act of killing other sentient animals. On to your final few points. Animal fat is not necessary for our brain health. However, the correct proportion of omega-3/6 is. You can get vegan sources of these. While, I admit, science has not discovered everything as of yet, the growing body of information is showing that those eating more vegan foods and less animal-derived foods are in better health. The reason we don't live 200 years or more is not due to our diet, but due to cell decay. Our body replaces cells with new ones. However, as we age, the restoration of cells slows down until organs fail. Sure, there are better diets and worse diets, but there's only one that takes our human health seriously, takes the lives of other sentient animals into consideration, and one that is ecologically responsible. Vegan. Kegarus is up next with this comment.
I could never be a vegan. Meat is such a huge part of my food intake. I love every meaty bite I take. I respect your choice to be a vegan, and I see why you might not like eating animals. However, I find your choice to eat plants rather than animals to be a bit of a hypocritical one. Just because animals are more mobile and have lives more like ours, doesn't mean that plants can't suffer in analogous ways to our own. Also, I find PPL who refuse to eat meat tend to miss the point of nature. It's not to be nice and have all species of animals get along. That can be your ideology, fine. But don't act as if we all need to take up that ideology and treat all animal species as intellectual, human-like beings. Not every species of animal needs to be protected, not every species needs to be saved, and not every animal should live. Take the overpopulation of deer, for instance. Should we kill them and not eat the meat? Should we let them live and die of starvation and disease?
I'm not a vegan because I hated animal products. As a child, my favorite food to eat was ground beef, often accompanied by cow's milk. Meat, dairy, and eggs used to be a part of every meal, and until I went vegetarian, and later vegan, there was not a day that went by without those types of foods. I went vegan because I came to the conclusion that my desire for flesh, mammalian secretions, and organic embryo vessels was not consistent with my worldview. I believe that it is wrong to cause suffering and death for matters outside of necessity. Palate pleasure derived from eating animal products cannot be seriously considered a necessity in any sense of the word. Being vegan does not mean the end of enjoying what you eat. I take joy in discovering, making, and eating food more now than in any time previously. Vegan food can be incredibly finger-licking, tongue-smacking, and mouth-watering if you take the time to expand your perceptions of what a meal consists of. There is nothing hypocritical about being a vegan and eating plants rather than animals. As I've laid out in previous videos, plants have evolved to react in limited ways to their environment, however lack organs responsible for thought, emotions, wants, or desires. Plants cannot choose to do something as they lack a mind that does the choosing. Of all the characteristics attributed to living organisms, sentience is the foundation for moral concern. If something alive is not sentient, it by definition does not have an interest in its own life, and therefore the ending of its existence does not conflict with any desire to continue to live. To suggest that nature has an overriding plan or meaning is fallacious. Each sentient animal strives to survive against famine and predators while at the same time take care of any future offspring. As a vegan, I have no aspirations to rid the world of all suffering, as that would be a fully unattainable, naive goal. Our mere existence causes the death and suffering of other sentient beings, so the best we can work towards is to live a life minimizing direct intentional harm and reducing indirect unintentional harm. The place to start is right at the end of your fork. In regards to deer populations, state wildlife management agencies have a financial incentive to keep deer populations high. Deer are considered a resource and rake in a lot of money through the sale of hunting licenses. The reason we have large populations is because we ensure that they stay that way, and we do no service to these animals by unnecessarily hunting them down for pure bloodlust. Next, we have a comment from Smokey5543 who said,
I honestly don't give a crap about what you do in your own home. Just don't try to affect what I do in my own.
I do care what you may do in your home, if it involves harm directed at others. I would care if you kidnapped a child and locked her in your basement. I would care if you beat your spouse or loved one. I would care if you harmed another sentient being or allowed them hurt under your care. If what you do in the confines of your home is legal and does not harm others, human or non-human, then I do not care what you do in private. But the moment you infringe on the basic rights of others, it becomes everyone's business. I advocate for education and information so that people can make decisions of their own free will. I advocate for rational, consistent, and thoughtful actions in all areas of life. However, it is up to each and every one of us to make up our own minds. It is increasingly more challenging to come to conclusions free from outside influence. On a daily basis, on the radio, on TV, on the internet, in newspapers and magazines, and on advertisement, we are consistently bombarded with messages demanding our attention and our money. How we feel about animals, food, other humans, and entertainment are reinforced by our families, our friends, media, and the society at large. In order to be objective about our thoughts and beliefs, we should reevaluate our preconceived notions and learn to be skeptical and demand evidence for everything we think we know. Our food choices are no exception. Our next comment is from Kargnak, who said,
"The one main thing that always get overlooked here is how vegans like this tend to humanize animals rather than regarding them for what they are. Since we're all animals and animals tend to kill other animals, what makes it wrong? It's almost funny to see what kind of pedestal vegans can put themselves on. To think that being human makes them so far removed from nature that they are above its rules."
In no way have I ever tried to humanize other animals. There is only one species of humans on this planet, Homo sapiens. To work towards a future in which the most basic right, the right to one's own life, is protected from unnecessary suffering and death at our hands, is not about elevating other species to the level of humans, but rather to finally acknowledge that humans are not the only species worthy of that right. Humans have many rights, many of which would be meaningless to an animal of any other species. The most basic right, from which all other rights are dependent, is the right to not be the property of another. We have seen what harms have come when we have allowed humans to own other humans, often justified by religious texts and irrelevant perceived differences. As long as sentient animals are considered, under the law, as chattel property, the rights and desires of the property owner will always surmount the interests of the property. If we were to talk about an inanimate, non-sentient piece of property, then there is no conflict of interest taking place. If, on the other hand, our property has thoughts, desires, can feel pleasure and suffering, it is prudent of rational moral beings such as ourselves to justify our actions. Again, we see in this comment, and in so many others floating around the YouTube comment section, is an appeal to nature fallacy. We can find rape, murder, and theft throughout the natural world, so would this give us moral grounding to behave in a similar fashion? As intelligent moral agents, we can evaluate the evidence, formulate goals, and work towards them. We can educate ourselves and others on our findings and work to improve the quality of life for all others. Of the two perspectives, which do you see as being on a pedestal? A person who thinks that it is their right to enslave, slaughter, and eat other sentient beings because they have either the permission of their sky god, their species, or self-proclamation. B. A person who lives trying to minimize the suffering and death of fellow sentient beings by choosing to avoid animal-derived food items and clothing. Part of this commitment to ending the senseless suffering is to communicate to others through non-violent and non-forceful means so that others too can make an informed decision. We are not automatons enslaved to every natural whim and desire. We can choose to follow the cutthroat, evolutionary, survival of the fit approach to life, or we can engage our intellect and our ability to learn from our past and the past of others to build a better future. And our last comment is from Dylan Hokinyos, who said,
"Hello, vegan atheist. I would like to hear your opinion on a situation I'm currently in. I think killing animals for food in the way that people are doing today, raising them in captivity and treating them wrong, that's wrong. But since I can't stop this from happening, I've decided not to become a vegan. Is it still wrong if I eat meat? I'm not a fan of the way that they kill the animals, but I can't stop it. So the damage is already done when I see a hamburger. So would it be wrong to eat the burger? I don't really support the animal killers, but I can't stop them either, so I would rather not become vegan, as I can't make a difference."
As individuals, there are few things, if any, we can fully control or influence, other than ourselves. Each and every one of us makes our own decisions in life, and our interactions affect a relatively small group of people. Change of any meaningful sort typically arises over a long period of time and after a lot of people have put their time and effort in. I cannot stop all women from being raped. I may one day be able to stop an attacker in a single instance, or may influence people around me through education, but my actions alone will never lead to the end of sexual violence towards other humans. I myself cannot stop this from happening to others, so would it be rational for me to abandon my morality and engage in rape myself? I detest racism and sexism, but no matter my actions in my short life, I will never lead humanity to a fully racism, sexism-free utopia. Does that somehow diminish my commitment to be an empathetic defender of human rights? Should I start throwing around sexist and racist slurs just because my refraining to use these terms is not going to end the use of these terms? I believe in living by example. I believe in being one of the billions who over the centuries did his part to nudge humanity in the right direction. If you wait to act last, you will live your entire life achieving little and being no example for others to model. In response to Dylan's comment regarding the damage already having been done, when the meat is already on the plate in front of you, that animal cannot be saved as it has already lost its life. You cannot save the life of a dead animal, but you can fight for the right to life and freedom of the future animal destined for a future plate. Body parts have become a commodity, and like any business, success is contingent on demand. If consumer demand goes down, supply will eventually match. Each and every one of us represents a tiny bit of that demand. Sure, an individual removing their own demand has little effect on the industry, but a few million individuals can slowly change the world. There you have it. 5 stupid comments from 5 different YouTubers. Which comment would you vote to win the Dumbass of the Week award? Would it be 1. Nismoman420, who thinks it takes some sophisticated technology to be a vegan. 2. Kegris, who enjoys animal flesh too much and thinks that vegans are hypocritical to eat plants as they supposedly can suffer in analogous ways. 3. Smokey5543, who thinks that his choices affecting other sentient beings is his own business. 4. Kargnak, who thinks that an appeal to nature fallacy is a valid argument. Or 5. Dylan Hokanios, who thinks that because we cannot end animal exploitation by going vegan, we might as well engage in it. To vote, leave your choice in the comment section below. Choose only one winner. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button below. To ensure that you don't miss out on future content, click the subscribe button and bell to be notified of new uploads. Interested in atheist-related videos? Check out my other YouTube channel devoted to atheist and religious content. Link is in the video description below. Lastly, if you like the work that I do and have a few bucks to spare, please consider becoming a patron of the channel by supporting my Patreon project. I am more than halfway to reaching my $100 a month goal. Please help if you can. Thank you for your ongoing support, and as always, thank you for watching.